Hey, welcome everybody. Really glad you took a little bit of time to tune in today and hear our privacy compliance looking ahead to 2024 priorities webinar look ahead. My name's Dave Cohen. I'm a director here at Level Up Consulting Partners, and I'm here with my colleague Wills Catling, also a director here at the firm. And in honor of Data Privacy Day / Data Privacy Week, which I think many of you know is January 28th every year, we thought we would come on and just provide a little slight look back and a look forward for all of you in terms of upcoming privacy and IT security compliance requirements coming up in the year, and just have a little chat and talk a little bit about what we've been seeing in the news lately and what we think should be on your list of things to keep an eye on in terms of privacy compliance for the coming year. So, Wills, how's it going today? How's your day?
Hey,
Is it off to a good
yeah,
start?
good, good, Dave. Both of us standing up here in New Hampshire. It's a bit warmer. It's broken 40 today, so delightful not to be in the frozen tundra for at least a couple of days.
Indeed, Wills. Yeah, don't know where all of our listeners are out there in the world and what time of day it is, but Wills and I are located up here in northern New England, coast of Maine, and looking out my window, it's got snow on the ground, but it is a little bit mild, and so we're happy to have it, little reprieve from the cold. So yeah. So Wills, lots going on. Obviously, I think some of the things we'll touch on in our chat here today are the emergence of AI within the last year, just the explosion upon the scene. We'll get into that in just a moment. The continuation of U.S. state privacy laws popping up. Some recent activity in terms of focus on location data, the FTC, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Another real focus in terms of enforcement actions and upcoming legislation on children's data and teens data. We're seeing a lot of movement there. And then just some foundational things that we're going to talk about in terms of maintaining a tight and effective privacy program at your organization. So some of the things we'll touch on. If any of you have specific things you'd like to hear about, please pop them into the comments section. We'll be more than happy to tackle them as we're able. So please, happy to be interactive here if you want to let us know what's on your mind and share your thoughts and questions. But Wills, we'd probably be remiss if we didn't start off at least talking about the emergence of AI compliance and AI governance within the last year. It's just been everywhere, headlining all over the place. You and I attended the IAPP AI. I attended the AI conference down in Boston back in November of last year, and you and I attended the IAPP European program in Brussels at the end of last year as well, and AI was just on everyone's mind. So what are your thoughts about this intersection or emergence of AI governance, AI compliance, and the privacy function, people's privacy roles and departments? How do you see that changing and morphing as we head into 2024?
Yeah, yeah, as you say, you can't you can't go onto LinkedIn or click a feed without seeing something about AI governance and what role is the data privacy professional going to have in AI moving forward. And I think it's always interesting. I know we chatted with Michelle about a month ago, Michelle Dennedy, and AI is not something that's new. It's just the explosion of generative AI in the last year, and the pace it's increasing at, and the way it's becoming more commonplace within organizations. GDPR addressed automated decision making. Back if you go all the way back, 5, 6, 7 years ago when they were drafting the GDPR. So it's the explosion in the last year, and it clearly is something that, when you look at what's happening in the privacy world, I feel it kind of caught everybody a bit by surprise. It's like, I went back and looked. We did one of these last year with kind of like, coming out of 2022 and into 2023. And is the world coming back to more normality now that COVID is becoming less of a challenge for us in our day-to-day lives? And I thought, it's always good to look back and see what did you talk about last year. Did we talk about AI last year? And it's like, no, it wasn't. It wasn't on the presentation in any shape or form. It was not something that was on the radar. So,
And that's
the
really striking, actually, with
yeah,
its prevalence now. The fact that it
yeah,
wasn't really, it's just been a very, very rapid rise and almost
oh,
takeover of all
yeah.
the oxygen in the room in terms of governance. And interestingly, I think both you, when you and I talk to our colleagues and our peers out in the field, it's not like privacy went away. We
No,
still have a lot
no.
of privacy compliance to do, right?
That's the biggest thing. I heard people at the conferences kind of joking with us, and they're like, "Well, yeah, thank God we got privacy leaked." It's like, we've done privacy. That everybody's compliant. There's no challenges with privacy. Let's all move on to AI, and that's clearly not the case. AI just layers another level of complexity. That and I listened to Trevor speak, Trevor Hughes from the IPP speak earlier this week, and he's so passionate about it, and as he says, it's like, who else but the privacy professional has the experience. You look at the challenges that AI governance and AI integration into organizations is going to cause, and building these programs from scratch, and who better than the privacy professional to take a lead role. I'm not sure if it's always the lead role, but a leading role in the development of AI governance within an organization. Privacy professionals have had to build complex global privacy programs to comply with an ever-changing landscape of regulations and requirements, and balance multiple stakeholders. And ultimately they're handling the most critical data of all, from our perspective, personal information of customers, consumers, and employees. And they've built change management programs, and they've put risk management programs in place. So again, certainly there is going to take a village to build out an AI governance model that works for an organization, but the privacy professional should be one of the key stakeholders in those discussions.
Yeah, well, I agree with you there, Wills. And I was just remembering, I think it was at a session that I was at the IPP Global Privacy Summit last spring, and it was a panel of, chief privacy officers at some of the very large, brand name, well-recognized organizations. And they were all, it was, the call to action was the privacy program over the last, decade plus has built up the tools, processes, and techniques, PIAs, right? Should be able to be modified in order to account for AI governance and compliance. Matter of fact, I was just on a call yesterday with a bunch of compliance officers, and they were saying it seemed like the trend was to take PIAs, DPIAs, and modify them, at least for the moment, in these early days, and add in these AI requirements as opposed to starting from scratch. So
Yeah.
it seems like that's what I'm hearing people saying. Interestingly, we just got a question in the comment section here from Jared. Between the AI executive order and NIST making AI compliance rules, to be clear, NIST has published guidelines. Has it been difficult to navigate the security side? Jared, I think it's early days, and I think it's still, we'll have to see about that. I think people, even at the largest organizations, are really working to retool and rework their frameworks, and to see how they're going to handle these requirements. And I think that a lot of it these days, what I'm hearing is it's about awareness. Boardrooms are hearing about it, and that's filtering down into the, to the C-suite. And then they're asking for research. They're asking for standards and frameworks to be put together. Committees are being formed to look at these compliance challenges. So these are the types of things I hear people talking about out there.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, Wills, too, we're lining up some of these future programs like the one we're airing today. And I've reached out to a few colleagues who have been privacy officers in some large organizations. And they're letting me know that, they're happy to speak on a program like this, but they've actually shifted into AI governance, left privacy, as it were, with a new title into AI governance. Although others are keeping their privacy title, but adding the AI component. Are you seeing the same in folks you're talking to, that's kind of where the people leading privacy programs are headed?
I think I'm seeing both from the people I've talked to. I mean, the privacy pros I've been talking to certainly AI is now falling in the realm of discussions they're having, and I think it depends on the org. I don't know that one size fits all. You know, I'm going to use all those um, uh, common sayings to kind of like bail out on this one and sit on the fence, I think. But I don't know that one size fits all. I think it depends on your organization, it depends on the structure, it depends on the individual. I mean, you know, if you are, and we've seen over the past few years, and again, we talked with Michelle about this, how the privacy, the chief privacy officer or senior privacy individuals, how their role has changed over the last 10, 15 years from being, you know, coming purely out of a legal background to now we're seeing more technologists and people who have those technical skills. And I think it depends on who you are. If you're somebody who is, you know, and how your structure is. If your privacy officer is very much sitting in legal, and you are somebody whose strengths are the legal side of privacy and the compliance side of privacy there, and you're not somebody who necessarily lives in the technology world and that opaque world that's out there, you might not want to be more than you know, looking at the compliance and legality of how AI is being used. But if you're somebody who's more technically minded and understands that side of things, then yeah, I think you are. We're seeing some privacy officers who are taking, you know, right turn, you know, out of privacy into AI and seeing it as the next big frontier and the big challenge. So
Right.
I don't think there's a universal answer available yet. And I think, you know,
Yeah.
we're still, like you said, guidelines, executive orders. Yes, we have an EU AI Act that's you know got leaked this week.
By the way, have
It's,
you had a chance to read the draft yet? It's only 340 pages long.
so I've been chewing through that at night. That's something that'll put you to sleep in about 30 seconds. But again, there still isn't actually, you know, the regs have not been written and the laws have not been, or the regs haven't been put into place, I should say, and the laws in the US haven't been written. And, you know, what's going to happen in the US? Will we get, you know, I hate to go down the federal route, but will we get a federal AI bill law? We can't even get a federal privacy law. So
Yeah.
chance of that, I don't know. Will everybody just leap off privacy and leap onto AI? You know, or are we going to, I hate to say it, but are we going to see what we've seen with data privacy? Are we going to see what we've seen with data breaches? And if the feds do not act, we know that the states will step in. So could we be, you know, Groundhog Day? Will we be here this time next year saying no federal bills, but hey, have you seen the new 5 state level AI bills that have been passed and they're going to go into effect?
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, it's like if I had a crystal ball, it would certainly help.
Right. Absolutely. And you know, we could talk about this all day. So let's kind of you know, we'll move on to some other topics. But just to kind of finish, you know, and back to Jared's point, his question that I posed there, you should feel comfortable knowing that it's early days. Companies are asking a lot of questions. They're building out frameworks. But one thing that's consistent that I'm hearing from everybody is, you know, it's a matter of evaluating whether these AI tools and technologies are being used within your organization. And if they are, cataloging them, you know, doing some documentation, and importantly, looking at what they're going to be used for, and making sure that there are humans in the loop, people that are actually, you know, cross-functional committees that are being formed. And by the way, that's kind of key too. We hear that again and again, that this is an across the organization, horizontal kind of governance structure you're going to want to put together. It involves people at all levels of the organization. And you're just going to want to have important decisions that involve AI systems reviewed by people to decide whether there's what the risk level is. You know, I heard someone just the other day talking about prioritizing those risks as low, medium, or high. And in those high risk decisions where AI is being involved, let's, you know, just have some people have a look at that and decide whether the output is going to be advantageous enough to absorb the risk, or whether the risk is too much to really take on and should best be avoided. So having people in the loop reviewing those decisions, I think, is really key. So, but anyway, as I said, moving on, because we've only got about a half an hour here. Will's state privacy laws. Looks like we still have our foot on the pedal there. So New Jersey, January 2024, we're now up to 13 current state privacy laws. Yep. and we've got New Hampshire, which to the left of us here, to over here in Maine, and has passed the bill. It just needs to be signed by the governor, and that'll make 14.
Mm.
And a couple interesting things about New Jersey, very similar with consumers. New Jersey state residents being able to access their data, all the standard correct, ask for it to be deleted, etc. Recognizing global privacy control signals is called out. That is something that I know I was flagging last year as something that companies want to look out for. Are you able to recognize these signals? And I'll tell you again, early days in terms of having technologies in place to be able to honor those GPC signals. So something people want to be having a look out for. And also the New Jersey law calls out a necessary opt-in for ages 13 to 16 teens. And that kind of plays into this theme that, again, we're seeing with children's privacy and teenagers' privacy popping up on the radar and being talked about a lot out there in the privacy compliance field. So state privacy laws in general, Wills, as we work with our clients, what are you seeing in terms of responses to all of these continuously populating state privacy laws? Are you seeing companies wanting to continue to carve out these rights just for those that are legally obligated? Or are people crafting programs where they're saying, look, there's so many, the easiest way to go about this is to offer these rights to everybody, regardless of their geographic location? What are you seeing?
I'm going to step back a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, went back to 2023 to when we did this, and shock horror. What were the key takeaways from coming into 2023, or predictions for 2023? And it was like, will we get a federal privacy law? Unlikely. I guess 2024, will we get a federal privacy law? I think you've got to be a real optimist to believe that we'd get one this year.
Right.
And again, it was, this time last year, we were having this conversation about this continued proliferation of state laws. And that, back then it was like, oh, there's 5. And it's like, how's everybody going to cope? And as you said, now with New Hampshire, which we anticipate probably, or we hope will move forward, that puts 14 on the dock. And then you've got another 11 at least that are on the books. You do get to the point where, and I think we were having this internal discussion where, are people going to start getting regulatory fatigue when you keep going up and saying, oh, it's, I do, and this might be a bit of, I'm not being flippant here, but I do feel that we've got to a point now where companies need to stop focusing on the numbers. It's like when it was 1 and it went to 2 and it went to 3, but you're at 5, you're going to be at 14 in about 2 years. And yet that number, as sure as night follows day, that number's going to keep growing. And, we're going to be here next year and it's going to be like, Dave, Wills, what's going on with the state regulars? Well, we've got 15 on the books. We've got another 12 coming in. We'll be at 27 in a year. It's got to a point now where the numbers don't mean anything. It's like you need to know what each law is telling you and what the requirements are. But you've got to start thinking that companies, and what we're hearing from companies now, what the people I've been talking to, is that it's another law. It's like if you've built your privacy program correctly and you've established a baseline for what privacy compliance is within your organization, you then can apply the next law as it rolls in to your baseline, look for the consistencies amongst it. That should deal with, hopefully, because I know they are all nuanced and they are all a little different, but that should hopefully be able to help compliance with 80 to 90% of the new privacy regs as they come in. And then it is a case of looking at those nuances and making business decisions as to how do you handle those nuances within those privacy laws. And I think, like you were saying about, data subject rights, which is obviously a big one for compliance purposes for a lot of our clients, it's, yeah, again, I'm back on my fence. No one size fits all. And it's like you have to make a decision as a company, how broadly do you want to apply? We hear people say, take the most stringent regulation and apply that to everybody. But what is the most stringent regulation anymore? They're all having their own little carve outs, which means you can't. I mean, it's more challenging now to pick one regulation and say we're going to manage to this regulation, provide all these rights and all of these compliance, and it will cover the rest. Well, when there was one or two or three, you might have been able to do that. But more companies now that I'm speaking to are realizing that they're not really sure what the strictest regulation is. So therefore, form the baseline, manage to the baseline, and then look at the nuances and then make decisions as to, how do you address those nuances within each of those regulations. And, data subject rights are one of them. I know, we talked about the right to appeal a few months ago. And again, not all states offer the right to appeal. So as an organization, do you want to provide that right to all of your customer base, or do you want to restrict that to the states that require that you offer that right? I
Right.
guess as a decision as an organization you'd have to make. So that's kind of what I'm hearing, is that companies are looking to their privacy programs, make sure it's robust, make sure it's resilient, make
Mhm.
sure you've got a baseline that you can implement, and then, but again, it's complex. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So it,
Yeah.
um, it's on a case by case basis. You've got companies that have privacy teams with, 10, 15 people. You've got privacy teams with one person. You've got centralized models. You've got decentralized models. You've got hybrid models. So I think it really is a case of looking at your model, looking at how you manage privacy currently. Make sure you do have a strong change management program and that you are monitoring everything that's going on. And then you are comparing it again. I keep coming back to compare it to your baseline and then manage up.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, Wills, and agree. That's what I'm, hearing from our clients and on the projects that we're working on. There's that the baseline and kind of we'll actually want to talk about that in just a minute. But to your point about the nuances, at the same time, you do have to pay attention. I was, the MHMD, the Washington My Health My Data Act, just issued the AG's office just issued that they're requiring a separate and distinct link. That's the actual, in quotes, from the regulations on the company's homepage for the requirements for the MHMD. So they're saying it's not okay to just lump our requirements in with the other similar requirements from other states. We need you, or we're requiring you to have a separate link and a separate policy for our law. Now,
Yeah,
if that trend continues, it's going to get pretty complicated and messy out there. I would hope that doesn't continue as a trend and that there's more harmony. But as you say, we're not holding our breath for a federal law that would create a more level playing field and a kind of set of harmonized regulations. So until that happens,
yeah,
what we're seeing is the best approach seems to be build that basic compliance program and then modify to the nuances and of course, MHMD, if that's applies to health data. So not every organization is collecting that type of data. So find out, work with your internal counsel, work with your external counsel, find out if you're in scope or not, and then operationally adapt to those compliance requirements. So, but back to what you were saying, Wills, about foundational privacy program practices. This is what we do day in and day out with our clients is very fundamental but very important privacy program activities. Data mapping, right? We like to say we start there. You need to understand where your data is being collected, where it's being stored, how it's being processed, what are the processing activities, do you have a deletion schedule, et cetera. Basic, what we consider to be relatively basic foundational privacy program practices. And importantly, not static, not one and done, right? It's a continuous process because companies are growing, they're changing, they're bringing on new IT systems, finding new uses of data, just constantly evolving. And then making sure updating policies so that they're and making sure that they're in alignment with operations, right? It seems relatively straightforward, but how often have we seen privacy policies go out of date, a new operation, and are the operations actually doing what is being said in the privacy policies? And then consulting with marketing teams use personal information as heavily as just about any other divisional function in a lot of organizations, and they're constantly looking, and it's their job to look for new ways to utilize personal information, but making sure that that's being utilized in a legally compliant way, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, thoughts?
And I think you make good points. I think it's interesting when we talk to a lot of our clients. You know, you look at how they manage their risk and everything else, and how they manage, you know, how the privacy program rolls out, like you were saying, with the different aspects. And as you said, it's a living, breathing environment. It's not something that's one and done, move on. And I think it's interesting that you see when you talk to a lot of companies, and a lot of people, you know, you and I talk to, they will have some kind of process for regularly hopefully revising their privacy notices, or at least looking at them every 12 months. But their records of processing, data mapping, whatever it happens to be, they regularly look at their third-party risk. They look at their security risks. They undertake third-party risk assessments, security assessments. New processes will trigger privacy, whether it's a privacy impact assessment, and if it's high risk and a DPIA is required, it will trigger that. But we saw a lot of companies 4 or 5 years ago go through. We should assess our privacy program and take a look at how do we comply? Do we comply? Where are the gaps in our programs? And I think it's worth, in 2024, as I would say, companies I've been talking to, it's definitely worth a look at. When was the last time you assessed your privacy program? It's like, was it 5 years ago? Was it a GDPR thing? Was it a CCPA thing?
Yeah.
So when did you last assess it? And it may not be that you need to assess it for gaps per se, but a lot of organizations will do maturity assessments as well. So, your program, as you were quite rightly saying, should not be static. It should grow and mature, keep pace with what's going on in the world. And how are you measuring that? Are you going back and are you doing maturity assessment on your privacy program to identify those areas where you want to focus in 2024? I think that's something that could be key for this year, especially, like you said, as AI becomes more prevalent in organizations, whether it's building your own AI models or whether it's actually buying in software that uses AI to increase efficiency, and make you a more profitable company, hopefully.
Right, absolutely. So it's a matter of hitting these fundamentals, putting it on a schedule to have a fresh look at them, to iterate, to grow, to mature these foundations. At the same time, keeping an eye on the developments that we've been talking about on the program today. One thing we didn't get a chance to talk about is I've been noticing a lot of attention being focused on location data. And specifically not called out GDPR, omits location data specifically, but that was something that was criticized at the time. It's starting to change now. The FTC paying attention to that with its recent consent order against X mode, and I'm seeing a lot out there of paying attention. So if you're a company that collects location data, be careful. Be careful what you're collecting it for. Are you getting consent? Are you deleting it? How's it being managed? So these are kind of the nuances that you keep an eye out on the landscape. Sources of information for those that are relatively new to the field. If you're listening in here, the IPP is an excellent organization. The Future of Privacy Forum has a lot of great educational materials out. Professor Dan Solov at GWU puts out some great materials. These are just a few places, if you're new to the field, where you can go and find out information. And with that, we've only got a couple minutes left, so we should probably wrap it up now. As you can see in the banner below you, our homepage is levelupconsult.com/contact us. You can get in touch with us. I'd love to hear from any of you about this program, and if you have questions that emerged and or have ideas for topics you'd like to hear us tackle in future editions of this program, we'd love to hear from you. Please write to either Wills or I directly. You can see our colleague Mary Margaret just put the link in the comments section. It's a live link there. Just go ahead and click on that. It'll take you to our page. We'd love to hear from you. So Wills, thanks for your time today. I know you've got a busy day with project work, as do I with our clients, but it's great to have a little time out to talk about what's happening out there in the field. And yeah, thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate a little bit of your time. Hope it was useful for you. And we look forward to seeing you on another edition of this soon. Thanks, everybody, and have a great rest of the week. Appreciate it, Wills.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.